Well, we're going to take a look now at one particular massacre of the Sudan War. It took place in June last year and is considered one of the first episodes of ethnically motivated violence in the conflict. Now, what makes the killings unusual and why we're talking about them now is that it's rare to get this kind of footage out of Sudan. The reporting is a product of a joint investigation by Sky News, Lighthouse Reports, Le Monde, and The Washington Post. And Katharine Houreld from The Washington Post, she's their East Africa bureau chief, joins me live now from Nairobi. Thank you for speaking to us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
First of all, I want to play our viewers two clips of the aftermath of an execution. This was, as I say, in June last year, on the 3rd of June. It took place in a place called Kasab in Darfur. Let's start by just taking a look at that footage.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله العظيم قسم بالله الله أكبر الله تتعبوا معانا.
And Katharine, just tell us then, what is it that we are looking at in those images? Who attacked whom and what happened?
So you're seeing the aftermath of an attack on Kasab camp, which housed many displaced families who'd fled the previous conflict in Darfur. One of those clips shows the bodies of 5 brothers who witnesses say were hiding in their house, and they were dragged out by uniformed RSF forces. They had their hands bound behind their back, and they were shot dead. We spoke to somebody who witnessed the mother pleading for the lives of her 5 sons. Before they were taken out and killed, she offered to trade her life for theirs, but she was clubbed with a gun butt, and her sons were taken away.
And it's taken over a year, Katharine, for this footage to come to light now. What kinds of challenges did you and your colleagues face trying to tell this story and get this information out?
It's very difficult to get into Sudan, first of all. The military has only started letting people in this year. It's been very difficult to make contact with people because phone lines are down in many places, and so is internet. Sometimes there's Starlink links, but people very much fear to send things over those because they're often surveilled. So sometimes they want to send things out in a thumb drive, or sometimes it might just be a case of they've now crossed the border and they can get it to somebody. So it's quite difficult to get things out of Sudan. But there is also a lot of evidence online. Human Rights Watch has just published a report about this, showing things like torture, extrajudicial executions, dismemberment of bodies. There's quite a lot of evidence out there, but we had several videos from the same incidents.
And in the article that you wrote that accompanies this footage that you've been working on, you talk about the kind of slaughter that we played that clip of being routine in this war. So is what you've shown us today the tip of the iceberg in terms of ethnically motivated violence now in Darfur?
Unfortunately, the violence in Sudan has been massively underreported. The United States estimates 150,000 people have been killed so far. It's happening on a daily basis. It can be the shelling of a crowded marketplace, the shelling of a hospital, this kind of slaughter in which civilians are taken out and killed from their homes. A lot of it does seem to have an ethnic basis, not all of it. But several of the survivors of this particular killing said that those who were attacking them kept repeatedly referring to them as slaves, which is an ethnic slur there, obviously.
Indeed, and as you say, what is particularly significant in this footage is the ethnically motivated nature of the massacre. Now, when viewers think of Darfur, many will think of the genocide 20 years ago carried out by groups like the Janjaweed. How does this footage compare to those events? Is there an echo here of the genocide of 20 years ago?
That's certainly what people are fearing, and many people are saying. There is the United Nations has come out and said that crimes like ethnic cleansing are being committed, massive sexual violence, which we also saw in the Darfur war. I first went to Darfur in 2005, I think it was. So certainly I see echoes of that. The major difference that you have now is that the military and the Janjaweed were working together in those days. And now the military is working together with the former African rebels that it was fighting against the RSF, which is the sort of, the RSF was formed out of the Janjaweed. So the alignments are different among the armed groups.
And the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces that you just mentioned there, have responded to this footage that you and your colleagues have produced and have been reporting on. They say effectively that the ethnic motivation for these attacks were overblown or were exploited for a Western audience, and that they claim now people are actually living together peacefully in this part of Darfur. I wonder what you make of that.
They are certainly living together in parts of Darfur, including in Khartoum. Whether it is peaceful or not, it's very difficult to say without visiting there, without knowing the conditions that they're living under. I'm aware of what the RSF has said, and I certainly think that there are many motivations for the violence, including conflict over resources, politics, but nobody can deny that ethnic tensions are really fueling this violence and are a significant contributor to this killing.
And as you say, the United States has said there is evidence of war crimes being committed now in Sudan, crimes against humanity as well. The death toll is dreadful and it is enormous. The Sudan story, though, isn't getting heard or isn't capturing the kind of public imagination in the way that it did back in the early 2000s. I wonder why you think that is. Is that because, we have so many other big conflicts on the world stage right now, Gaza, Ukraine? Is it because journalists like yourself can't get access to Sudan? Why do you think we hear about it? Why do you think we don't hear about it enough?
Sudan has always been very difficult to access, including during the last war in Darfur. I think a major difference now is we are in the era of polycrisis. There is Gaza, there is Ukraine, there is Sudan, there is still Somalia, South Sudan, fighting in Ethiopia. There are only so many crises that people can hear about without their eyes beginning to glaze over, which is a real privilege for Western audiences to be able to turn off the TV set. Of course, millions of people don't have that luxury.
A final question for you then. What should governments, the United Kingdom, the United States, be doing in the wake of this reporting like yours, demonstrating the scale of ethnic violence in Sudan, be doing to try and put pressure on the right parties to quell this dreadful violence?
Well, I can't say what government should be doing, but I can tell you what they are doing. They just attempted to hold talks in Geneva with the United States and several other actors over humanitarian access. The RSF attended those and the Sudanese military did not. But the military did finally open an access point for aid to cross over from Chad into Darfur, which can make a difference to millions of starving people. It's very difficult to put pressure on the warring parties because their backers are not Western governments, and their backers haven't been that responsive, I think, to messages from governments who would like to see a ceasefire, that they should stop fueling this conflict.
Katharine Houreld talking to us there. She's the East Africa Bureau Chief for The Washington Post. Thank you.